It's like the elephant in the room, huh? Can I close this, or does this need to be on?
You can, but it's not facing. That way you don't have to see your face behind you the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I like looking at myself. I'm narcissistic. Huh? I'm not. I didn't run for president and win. So, like DJ was saying, I'm going to talk about mystery, but I'm going to talk about it in a little different way. Like first I was like, mystery, man? Like word? Everyone gives me these hard topics. Like I did Be Spoken, and they're like, talk about fail. And I'm like, well, can I talk about like love or compassion or something? Fail? And then they're like, we want you to talk about mystery. And I'm like, I'm not really up on my, Nancy Drew or my Agatha Christie or anything like this. So I want to take it a little bit different way. And the true mystery of life is searching for our own identity. Who are we? And then when we look further and who are we, who are these people that sit next to us? Who are these mysteries that are next to us? What is this mystery where we can look into the eyes of somebody and see our future? Like those are the mysteries we really need to explore, and spaces we really need to look into. So, as you could guess by my garb and my name, that I am a Muslim and I am an Imam, so I have to tell like a Sufi story to get it started, huh? They'd kick me out of the club. They'd take my card if I didn't do this. So a stranger went to go meet a man by the name of Bayazid Bastami. And Bayazid Bastami is a great mystic, a great sage in the Middle East. And the man came and he knocked on his door and he said, I'm looking for Bayazid al-Bastami. Do you know where he is? And the man stood there for a while, and it was Bayazid al-Bastami. And he said, I've been looking for him for 30 years. I've been looking for him for 30 years. So there's this journey that we all need to take inside of ourselves to find out who we are. We have these faces that we show people. We have these images that we want people to see that this is me. But there's a deeper part of me that I'm afraid to go into myself. These shadowy areas that are preconditioned responses to anger, to fear, to stress. Jalaluddin Rumi said, how can you become polished? How does your heart become polished? If you're irritated by every rub. But what are those rubs that make us irritated? I know I have a lot of rubs right now that make me, I'm irritated very easily lately. Not at you guys, but at certain rhetoric that's coming out. And I have to realize to myself, why do I have a hard time humanizing or thinking about people who hate me so much? Why do I also stumble when it comes to loving them? These are the ideas of knowing self, right? And understanding where they're coming from. After the election, I'm a really political kind of guy. After the election, it was really hard for me to sit and realize why rural voters voted against me and my family. And it was something I had to sit and think about. Why would people who never met me, who never understood me, who never stepped foot in a mosque, who never realized the power of love or connection, that's what I'm thinking, right? I didn't give them the time to know them. I didn't humanize them. I didn't realize who they were. I didn't realize their struggles because I was so caught up in me and my struggle. For my identity, for myself, for who I am. So how do we then look at other people? How do I look at everyone in this room and see the humanity? From an Islamic context, see the divinity that is blown into every one of us. The soul, right? This thing that is greater than all of us, that makes us move, that makes us talk, that makes us love, that makes us feel. How do I see that in somebody else if I can't find it in myself? Is that me? It's all right, it's a doctor. But he's not a doctor, he's an academic. So he's not calling me about like my heart or anything. So what happens is we become, as we move through trying to find ourselves and figure out who we are, we really become like a guy who's sitting on his donkey, moving through the market, and everyone says, hey, sit down and have coffee, sit down and have tea. And we say, no, I'm looking for my donkey. but we're sitting on our donkey. We become people who are confused by our own egos. That donkey's our ego. That donkey's our own self-consciousness of who we think we are. But we haven't really looked on who we really are. And maybe you guys have done all the spiritual work that's needed to, transcend the Dalai Lama and become someone who is, floating on clouds. I haven't done that. And I'm the spiritual leader of a community, and I still need a lot of work on me to figure out who I am. So now I'm going to read my thing that I prepared, a long thing. I'm not going to talk forever either. I want to do this like in 3 ways, I want to talk, blah, blah, blah at you guys for a while. And then I want you guys to sit and talk to each other for a while about this thing, about who are we? How many of us really think we know who we are and express this true reality of ourselves to everybody every time we meet them? Or is there some sort of facade that we show? When I was younger, there's a guy, his name is Fakir. He lives in San Francisco. He owns Gauntlet Piercing and Jewelry. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gauntlet Piercing and Jewelry in the Castro. My friend James went to go work for him, right? And when I first met Fakir, he's wearing a suit and a tie, and he looks like a professional business guy, right? And then we go later to his house, and he's sitting there, and he's fully tattooed from, his neckline down to his feet. He has his nipples stretched. Not what you would expect, right? Here's this facade of who Fakir was to everyone who didn't know him personally. So that's what I want to get through us today, is how do we go past that facade? How do we have real human experiences with everyone in front of us? How do we lower that feeling where we're going to get hurt, that anxiety of if they see who I am, they won't like me, they'll think I'm a fraud, or whatever it is that keeps us from being us, being truly, unapologetically me. Does that make sense? I'm going to do that in 10 minutes. Tony Robbins, get ready, here I come. I'm joking. So we have this saying in Arabic, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are you going? Where are we going? Where are we going internally? Where are we going externally? Where are we moving? What are our hearts driven to know? What are our hearts driven to love? What is the one thing in our lives that brings about passion? What is the one thing in our lives that brings the ihya, she doesn't know. Any Arabs in their room? No. Okay. So ihya is the coming alive of our heart. What brings about bringing life to our heart? What is the thing that brings about the passion that drives us to create, the passion that drives us to be? And if we can't answer that, if we can't say, I don't know what drives me to be, because it's not binge watching Netflix, it's not playing Candy Crush, it's not getting likes on Facebook, or you get retweeted and all of a sudden your world is super high. That's dopamine levels. That's not serotonin. And we need to create serotonin. We need to create true tranquility in our lives, not temporary tranquility. And we can only achieve that fullness of self by looking into shadowy areas. So I'm going to ask another question. How many of us have dived deep into themselves and went to those dark spots that no one ever wants to look at and understand why the way they are the way they are? Has anyone done that? It's wicked painful, right? It hurts. These realizations that we come to are painful. And that's why most of us don't do it. That's why we want these weekend feel-good camps where we go for a weekend and we come out and I'm enlightened now. I've reached nirvana. Because we don't really want to do that work that requires to look deep into ourselves. Because it's painful. It harms us. It makes us remember things we don't want to remember. It truly hurts. Why am I this way? I have a friend of mine who came to me and he said, I only have impatience when it comes to money. When it comes to money, anything else, I'm completely patient about. It doesn't bother me. You can spit on me, you can hit me, you can call me names, you can do anything, but if I start having financial problems, then I become very angry. So I simply asked him why. And he said, because when I was young, I had nothing. I had nothing. I was picked on because I didn't have the greatest shoes. I didn't have the nicest pants. I didn't have these material things that everyone in the society thinks makes you who you are, right? Have you ever been that kid who was wearing shoes from Target when everyone else was wearing shoes from Foot Locker or whatever. Everyone's like, ha ha, look at your busted kicks, right? They give that to you, and it becomes something that's inside of us that now we have to look a certain way. We have to be a certain way. We have to fit into what everybody says we do in this mold, and if we don't fit into that mold, then there's something wrong with us. But that's not knowing self. That's knowing the mold in which everyone wants to put you into. You have to be this person. In the Middle East, we have this horrible thing about women with their hair. Women have to have long hair. Women can't cut their hair, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So whenever anyone meets my wife, and if they're a woman and they see her hair, they're always like, your hair is short. Why is your hair short? Because that's her. That's the expression of her, right? Does that make sense? I know hair is probably not that big of a thing. It's not to me because I don't have much of it. If you have a lot of it, it becomes more important to you, right? But it's fitting out of that box. It's coming out of that shell that people tell you you have to be. And I know you guys understand that because you're creative. You've always been outside looking in. Most creatives are. Most creatives aren't stuck in a box saying, this is who I am. They're looking how to expand that box, how to break out of that box, how to get other people out of that box. But when we create things, we truly are in that moment of self, that moment of creation. We're away from our fears. We're away from our anxieties. We're truly in a place where we're free. Free from ego, free from lusts, free from expectations of people and places and things. We're ourselves in those moments. So how do we create those moments with every breath? How do we use every breath like it's a diamond or a ruby, a precious thing that we keep with us? And then once we've expanded that to where we know us, where we know deep inside who we are, then how do we look at our spouses, our significant others, our children, our parents, people in our lives, our coworkers, and begin to experience them as themselves and allow them to have the room to fulfill their understanding of mystery, to find who they are, to be fully them? That's the question. So how do we create these spaces within ourselves to allow us to breathe and not to worry and have panic attacks about us? And then how do we allow other people that are close to us, far from us, near to us, how do we allow them to also take in that nefes rahmaniyah, this merciful breath of self, so that they can go through this process to be fully them, to be fully humanized, to be fully realized within self? There's a lot of tactics, right? There's meditation, which contemplation is a beautiful thing. Everybody should take 30 minutes a day and just sit somewhere quietly and just clear their mind of everything. Everyone, really, it's the most beneficial thing you can do in your life. But how do we create that space for everybody? How do we allow our children? I have a 14-year-old daughter. How do I allow her the space to be her? Allow her the space to grow to be a woman that she wants to be, not the image of what I think a woman should be, not the image of what I think she needs to be doing, but what she wants to be. We have 6 children. I tell people that's the part of me that's still Catholic. I'm just throwing out kids. But how do I allow them to be them? How do I allow them to experience life without me getting in the way of it? How do I allow my neighbors, children in the streets, children in school, how do I allow them the space to live? Rumi, I'm a big Rumi guy. Rumi, you guys all know Rumi, right? Jalaluddin Rumi, the Sufi poet, okay. He said, every soul will die, but not every soul will live. And what he was talking about is not every soul will live because we don't know ourselves. We don't know who we are. We don't know how to live. Living is not working 9 to 5. Living is not sitting in a cubicle. Living is not playing Candy Crush or being on Facebook or Twitter. That's not living. That's a life, but that's not living. Living is being fully aware of you, fully aware of the world, having your feet grounded. No matter what spiritual path or lack of spiritual path you practice, that's living. Being at one with self, being at one with the world, being at one with everything. That's the mystery that needs to be solved. And if we're not working on that mystery, if we're not working on the mystery of self, the mystery of our neighbors, the mystery of our families, then what mystery are we working on? What is the greater reality that we're striving for? A big bank account? Cars? I'm an anti-materialist kind of guy because when we die, right, that's another mystery, right? Peter Pan said death would be the greatest adventure, right? When we die, what do we take with us? Do we take that bank account? Do we take those cars? The only thing we take with us is these human experiences that we've lived. And if we're not living human experiences, if we're not having these moments of connection, then we're not solving that mystery. We think we're connected because we have 5,000 friends on Facebook and we have this monkey sphere, right? Do you guys know monkey sphere? So anthropologists, they looked at monkey sphere. Monkeys can only make 249 connections, real connections. And then once they make the 250th connection, they have to divide. So that you can only have so many real relationships in your life. Real relationships, true relationships, where you intimately know that person. But what's happened to us is we now are reality TV people. So we know the Kardashians better than we know Susie. I don't know the Kardashians, but we do, right? We know our Facebook friends that we've never met, and how do we refer to them as? Oh, I have a friend, and they're not a friend. We don't know anything about them. We like to post by them once. That's not a friend. But in our minds, we've made that a connection, a real human connection. So we no longer know how to have moments of togetherness, moments of surfing that mystery, of swimming in that mystery. In Arabic, we have this word that's called yasbaha. Yasbaha, it means swimming, right? So if you go swimming, you're yasbaha. If you're remembering the divine, you're yasbaha. You're swimming in that remembrance. Planets that are in orbit are yasbaha. They're in orbit. We have to have like those understandings of how the world works, right? We're swimming in ourselves. We're swimming in others. We're swimming in this universe. But if we're just staying in the kiddie pool because we're afraid to go into the deep end, the most brilliant pearls are found in the deepest of waters. They're not found right off the coast, right? So we have to be wandering off into self, finding who we are, solving that mystery. I didn't read anything on my notes, but that's all right. Am I done, or do you want me to talk more? Okay, I'm done. So what I would like everyone to do, if it's cool with everybody, is to kind of like pair off or triple off or quad off into like small groups. And if you can, try to be vulnerable. Try to talk about, everyone wrote what was their greatest mystery. I put my own name on mine, right? Have that moment where you let down all your guards and have a moment of true, intimate conversation with someone that you don't know. And try to humanize them and have them try to humanize you. And try to discover that instant mystery in all of us, that sparkle of the eyes that we all have, that is that mystery. I know it's a lot because most people nowadays, we moderns don't want to have intimate relationships with people anymore. We don't want to have vulnerable conversations with people. We don't want to let down our guards because we're so afraid of being hurt. We're so afraid of that other person letting us down that we just don't do it. Correct? Especially millennials, man. You guys have like, because everything is posted and everything is Snapchatted, so there's no intimacy anymore. Old people like me, we had those 5-hour phone conversations with our first girlfriend. We know intimacy, huh? We don't. But if we can try to do that, and I'm telling you, it'll be all right. I think Creative Mornings has created a space where it's safe to have these kind of conversations, to just, you don't have to get like, I have this whatever, but something that is, you normally wouldn't share with someone the first time you met them. Can you do it? I can do it. I mean, I'll answer anything you want to know about me, so I can get the ball started. I'm very open about everything. So if anyone asks me a question, I'll answer it, and then we can get going.
How old are you?
I'm 43, almost 44. I look 75, I know, but I'm not.
When did you know that being Catholic wasn't for you and that you needed to do something else with your belief system?
When I was a small child, really, I never really understood the Trinity. It never made sense to me. So it never made sense to me. 1 + 1 + 1 always came up with another number. And I didn't really understand the principles of Catholicism. I was talking to some nuns the other day, and I said if Francis was the Pope when I was a kid, I'd probably still be Catholic. I wouldn't have started to look. I think Francis shows what Catholicism is, right? He shows what religion is. The Dalai Lama shows what religion is. They show this merciful, compassionate side of it. When I was a kid, I went to Catholic schools, and most of the nuns that I had were not merciful or compassionate examples of Christ, right? So I started to look at a very young age for what is God, who is God. And I think God is something incredibly personal for everybody in this room. So God for me might have the name Allah, and God for you might have the name, whatever, but they're the same force, they're the same being, they're the same unity. Once we leave creedal issues, once we leave, I believe, A, B, C, and D, and we get into the metaphysics of who God is, it's all the same. It's all the same. So that took me 43 years to realize, right, that all of these things are related. Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Taoism, it's all the same. In the end of it, it's all the same being, it's all the same force. So you don't hear many imams talk like that, right? Your pastors and rabbis and stuff talk like that. So I told, very vulnerable, huh? So try to have that conversation with somebody. I have it every day, all day long, because I have to change the opinion of what people think of 1.8 billion people. So I have to be incredibly vulnerable. I have to tell people how I feel. When I get asked about Muslim registry, I have to say to them, you're gonna kill my family. I have 6 children. What do I tell my 2-year-old? Like, that's an extremely vulnerable conversation. It can't be one of logic. It has to be one of pure emotion, right? So I can convey that. How do you tell a 2-year-old that someone hates him because his name is not like their name? At 2, did you know your religion? At 2, did you know anything other than, you use the potty? So those are the kind of conversations that I want people to start having, to truly show their fears, their emotions, to truly show who they are. It's one thing to go to a rally and rant and chant, and it's another thing to live a way. We can all go no more GMO and go to every Monsanto protest there is, but if we're buying our food at Walmart, we're not living that, right? So we have to move to that place of being who we are. But if we can't express that to strangers in a way in which they're moved by that, then do we really know who we are? Do we really know the mystery of self if I can't express it? We're taught in universities that if you really know something, you can explain it to a 3rd grader, or you can diagram it on a chart. So how do we diagram a chart of us? How do we explain us to a 3rd grader? All these complex emotions of love and hate and fear and everything that makes us. How do we express that? Some of us express it incredibly negatively, right? By violence and by rhetoric that is hateful. And some of us express it by not expressing, becoming afraid and going into self and not being able to communicate any longer. And what does that do to us? That cripples us, right? If we can't express our feelings anymore, if we can't stand and tell someone that we just met what we feel and what we think, it cripples us as a society. It cripples us individually. It makes us weaker than we were before. And self-discovery should be empowering. Meditation should be empowering. Yoga should be empowering. Prayer should be empowering. So what I'm really asking you all to do is to change at a cellular level. Easy stuff, right? Just change at a cellular level. Become something that you want to be. But we really have to have these conversations. I'm running out of time because I keep talking, which I don't want to do. Never give a theologian a mic and a time, because we'll just blah, blah, blah you to death. So can we do that? Can we go into small groups and kind of just be real with each other? Not real like, this is what I'm going to, not real like that, not like the real world. Or road rules or any of those kind of things. But can we have a genuine, heartfelt conversation with each other about self, about who each person is? We can't do it in 20 people. It has to be 3 or 4 people because the time is limited, huh? And I know that's hard. And if you don't know, just say, I don't know. I don't know. For 30 years of my life, I walked around saying, I don't know. So I still say I don't know, because I don't know. Tomorrow might be a different person than I am today. Who knows? So can we do that? DJ, can we do that? DJ's giving me thumbs up, so break. It's like a football. We're going to try to come back together and have like a small group. We have like, I think 5 minutes left, 10 minutes left. How much time do we have left? 10 minutes left, and have like kind of a small group conversation or a question and answer, whatever you all prefer, or if you prefer to sit and talk more amongst yourselves, I'm cool with that too. It's all about, 2017 has been the year of rediscovering humanity for us at the Clifton Mosque, and we've made it also the year of shattering stereotypes. So we've made those two, well, we didn't, I did, and I told everyone we were going to do that. That's the best part about being the spiritual leader thing, is you could be like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and everyone's like, well, guess we have to do it, he said so. So are there any questions or?
So when you're trying to create like a real authentic connection with someone that maybe you have never talked to for the first time, how do you get to that level of intimacy? Is there some personal story you share? Is there something you ask someone? Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
I just act like I've known everyone my whole life. So when I was in Morocco, I had a teacher who just died, rahmatullahi alayhi. His name was Sidi Hamza Bouchichi. And he was one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. Like when you'd go to see him, his students would come out and show you where like insects were so you wouldn't step on them. And like just an amazing human being. And he would always tell me, act like everybody is wali Allah, or act like everybody's an intimate friend of God. And he said, if you act like everybody's an intimate friend of God, then how do you treat everybody, right? You treat everybody like, this guy's the man. So I just act like I have known everybody my whole life. I treat everybody as if they're not a stranger. Somehow we're connected. Whether I know it or they know it, somehow we're connected. And when you start talking to people from that space, as if you've always known them, people respond in that same way. They just act like you've always known them. And then there's that intimacy is just automatically there. And then I encourage people to go out of their bubble. I have a rabbi friend. He's an old Orthodox rabbi. He's like probably 87, 88 years old. And one day we were talking, he said, I'm going to tell you the story of the lobster. So I was like, sweet, I'm going to know why Jews don't eat lobster. I was like excited, because I really have always like, why, tell me, you know? So he was like, no, I'm not going to tell you that. And I was like, oh, another mystery that I have to solve on my own, right? But he said, when lobsters grow, they become uncomfortable. They have to become uncomfortable within their skin, within their shell. And then they shed that shell, and they grow another one. So he said, to grow in life, you have to be uncomfortable. You have to push yourself out of this comfort that we all live in. And we all live in what I call the suburban comfort zone. Like we go home at 5 and then we leave at 5, right? And there's those 12 hours that we're locked in our homes watching Netflix or whatever, binge watching. I don't binge watch. Okay, I binge watch. Everybody binge watches. But so we have this suburban understanding of reality, right? We don't have an urban reality. An urban reality is we're out with each other, being with each other. So if we just take that time to be uncomfortable and let that other person be uncomfortable, we'll grow from that. So like the Donald Trump presidency, people always ask me how I feel about it. And I say for the next 4 years, I'm going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to grow spiritually, I hope not physically, but mentally, emotionally, I'm going to grow from this experience. And I think when we create those instant, intimate conversations with people where there's no barriers. There's no barriers. I was taught as a Catholic, as a Muslim, to see everyone as my brother, everyone as my sister, just as humanity. So there shouldn't be a barrier there. It should be an instant, I know you. I know you. I recognize you. In Islam, we would say from a pre-Adamic state, right? From pre-eternity, I recognize you as a soul, as a creation of the Creator. And therefore, I love you, I cherish you, I care for you. And then so there should be an instant friendship. Try it with the clerk at the grocery store. They freak out a little bit, but then they're like, yeah, and then they're slapping 5 when you're leaving. So that's the way I do it. Everyone, like I was saying, everybody's different. Like we all have different experiences, so we all have different filters. So we have filters based on where we were raised, the color of our skin, the religions we practice, our levels of education. These are filters. And when people talk to us, when we learn things, we filter them through those things, and then we come out with what we believe or what we think or that situation we're in based on those filters. So I try to throw out my filters and just have real, true conversations with people. We have a friend, Linnea, who's the most, she doesn't have, like, she has no chill, man. She goes from like, hi, my name is Linnea to, do you have any illnesses I need to know about? Like, she's like, you know, she's like instantly like that. And you're like, what? So she kind of taught me how to just throw out all those filters and just say, and just be. And then if you're just being with people, right, in that moment, they'll be in that moment with you, right? But if you're distracted, you know, we're distracted by these phones we carry. Most of us, when we go anywhere, we take these things with us, right? And then when we go out to eat with our friends, where do we put it? On the table. So what are we signifying to our friends? This is more important than you. When this rings, I'm going to take it. I'm going to answer it. When I get a text, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to do this. So in that moment, even though we have people right in front of us that we should be experiencing things with, that we should be with, we're here, right? And our food comes out and we're all Instagram and we're taking pictures of our food and we're not enjoying food anymore. We're not enjoying it the way it was meant to be enjoyed. We're not enjoying art anymore because we just swipe left. We're not enjoying love anymore because we have Tinder and Minder and, you know, all of these things. We're not in Minder's the Muslim Tinder. Yeah. So we're not enjoying love anymore because we just swipe left, right? Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah, I wouldn't just make up Minder. If I did, I'd be rich. There really is. There's what, Grindr, Minder, Tinder, Blender, Cinder. I mean, you name them, right? But we just swipe left. So we're not having real connections anymore. Where we really aren't. I mean, most of us aren't. I'm not. I sit in an ivory tower and tell people what to do. But it's those moments that we're with each other that we should be with each other. Next time you go out with your friends, if you're going to go to the happy hour tonight and you're going to go as a group, only one of you bring your phone so that you can call an Uber. Right? I'm not a savage. I think people should use Uber. But have only one person bring your phone. And see how much more how the dynamic changes at the table. See how there's conversation now. You're actually with those people. You're not with those people. In Arabic, we have a thing called sama', which is hearing. And then we have istima', which is listening. So there's a difference in hearing. We hear the noise outside, and listening, right? You're being bored by what I'm saying now. So you're listening to me, right? But it's the same as being with somebody. We're all with each other. We're in a room. We're technically with each other. But are we experiencing each other? Are we experiencing the life force of each other, the love of each other, the compassion of each other, the laughter of each other? Are we just experiencing a room full of people? And when we go home, are we experiencing our families? Are we just experiencing a room full of people? And those are the idea of that mystery, right? How do we experience each other? That's what we have to do. And I think these things, just take one of them. No one's going to be conducting business from 5 to 9 tonight, right? So just leave it at home. I periodically lose my phone for weeks at a time, just so I can have like those moments of freedom away from this leash. Remember how many of you guys, people in their 40s, right? We all know. You don't raise your hand. I don't want to, get you guys out. You all look like a young crowd. But how many of you guys remember like leaving your home and just leaving, just being out? No one could get a hold of you. No one could. You were out, right? You were no electronic leash. There was nothing there. Now leave your home without your ID, credit cards, and cell phone, and feel the panic in your heart, right? Because now this is something it became a need. It became a must, where before it was a tool. So we have to get past screens to actually see the person that we're sitting with. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Yes, my friend. Sorry, I'm long-winded, man. You go ahead.
In our group, we were talking about language, particularly Arabic. And the English language is good at adopting a lot of words from other cultures. Is there some type of concerted effort, or does that require more reading on our part? Like, I like how you use 1 or 2 Arabic words, and you need maybe 10 or 20 words in English to explain what you just said. So wouldn't it be nice if you had some of your language, your Arabic language carries culture with it, knowledge about the world. Is there some concerted effort on your part or other leaders to bring more of these phrases. I know we have some Arabic words in English already, but it seems like there's so many that should still come into English. If we all use those words, and we'd say, oh yeah, I know what that means, and then we'd all kind of smile and feel connected with one another right away.
I think the problem with, I think it's a great idea. We're having this movement right now among Islamic scholars where we're trying to reclaim words. So words that we have that don't mean what they mean, you know, you hear like the word jihad, right? So how many people know what jihad means? Or know the definition that the media gives, right? They always say it means holy war or insurrection. Jihad means to strive and struggle. So it comes from the word jahada, which means to have an internal struggle with yourself. And another word that comes out of it is ijtihad, which is, ijtihad means to have a mental battle and to come up with something through your mind, right? So we have these words that people steal, and then they say, this is what your word means. And it's like, that's not what our word means. It doesn't mean that. Like the word kafir. Like you have these people that have kafir, and they put it on their shirt, underneath it says infidel. Kafir doesn't mean infidel. Kafir was a farmer, because they covered up seeds. So when I see people that have a shirt that says kafir, it makes me laugh because it says two things. It says they don't know what they're talking about. And then it says that they have no belief in God. So you see all these like, holier than thou people wearing these shirts that say that. And a kafir is someone who does not believe in any form of reality greater than themselves. So that Christians aren't kafirs, Jews aren't kafirs, Buddhists aren't kafirs, Hindus aren't kafirs, right? So they're using the word completely incorrectly. And it makes me laugh, but then it makes me sad because it's a word that we need to go and explain to people what this word means. Yes. I know you only said one more, but I'm going to break through.
I'm so sorry. You're talking Hindus, Christians, are atheist kafirs?
I don't think so. So I think atheists actually talk more about God than I do. To be honest, I do. I think if you talk to most atheists, they'll say that they have some kind of spiritual connection, or they want to think spiritually. It's not just like, no, I believe the world is dead and that's it, but there's also this idea of how do I meditate? How do I become a better human being? And so I don't think that that's being away from God, me personally. So people might disagree with me. But I don't think that's, if you have an awareness of self, we have this saying in Arabic that says, Man arafa nafsihi arafa rabbihi, the one who knows himself knows his Lord. So if people are going through these contemplative practices to try to figure out who they are, then they're trying to figure out who their Lord is, whether we realize it or not. And then it's not my job to judge anybody. That's way above my pay grade, like way above my pay grade. So I don't judge anybody based on what they say they believe or what they don't believe, because that's not my job. My job is, there's an old saying, Imam Ghazali, I don't know if you guys know who he is, and then I'm going to stop really because people have to go to work. I don't have to go to work. But he said, he was asked about the ruling about someone who leaves prayer, right? And you hear all these things about the apostasy laws, that we kill people and stuff like this, right? Which is another misconception. But he said the ruling is you take the person to prayer with you, right? That's the ruling. Not that you cut their head off and you scream jihad at them, but you bring them to prayer with you. So that's the ruling. We're guides. We're not judges. And the problem is that everyone wants to be a judge and not a guide. So I think I'm done. I think they're going to beat me up. DJ's giving me the eye, the red eye. Thank you very much.